So today we are going to start reading from page 250 and the para starts, but why this phenomenal and pragmatic division of an indivisible existence? This time we need not refer back to what the earlier para said because the question is very obvious. So this will be the theme of the paragraph that we are going to read. But why this phenomenal and pragmatic division of an indivisible existence? You have also very clearly the in the Gita also everything is actually avibhaktam but seems to be divided. Avibhaktam vibhaktam eva tishtati. Okay. Now, why this phenomenal and pragmatic division? So we'll read the whole para and come back to it. But why this phenomenal and pragmatic division of an indivisible existence? It is because mind has to carry the principle of multiplicity to its extreme potential, which can only be done by separativeness and division. To do that, it must, precipitating into life, to create forms for the multiple, give to the universal principle of being the appearance of a gross and material substance instead of a pure or subtle substance. It must, that is to say, give it the appearance of substance which offers itself to the contact of mind as stable thing or object in an abiding multiplicity of objects, and not of substance which offers itself to the contact of pure consciousness as something of its own eternal pure existence and reality, or to subtle sense as a principle of plastic form freely expressive of the conscious being. The contact of mind with its objects creates what we call sense. But here it has to be an obscure, externalized sense which must be assured of the reality of what it contacts. The descent of pure substance into material substance follows then inevitably on the descent of Satchidananda through supermind into mind and life. It is a necessary result of the will to make multiplicity of being and an awareness of things from separate centers of consciousness, the first method of this lower experience of existence. If we go back to the spiritual basis of things, substance in its utter purity resolves itself into pure conscious being, self-existent, inherently self-aware by identity, but not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. Supermind preserves this self-awareness by identity as its substance of self-knowledge and its light of self-creation. But for that creation, presents being to itself as a subject-object, one and multiple of its own active consciousness. Being as object is held there in a supreme knowledge which can, by comprehension, see it both as an object of cognition within itself and subjectively as itself, but can also and simultaneously, by apprehension, project it as an object or objects of cognition within the circumference of its consciousness. Not other than itself, part of its being, but a part or parts put away from itself. That is to say, from the center of vision in which being concentrates itself as the knower, witness, or Purusha. We have seen that from this apprehending consciousness arises the movement of mind, the movement by which the individual knower regards a form of his own universal being as if other than he. But in the divine mind, there is immediately, or rather simultaneously, another movement or reverse side of the same movement, an act of union in being which heals this phenomenal division and prevents it from becoming, even for a moment, solely real to the knower. This act of conscious union is that which is represented otherwise in dividing mind obtusely, ignorantly, quite externally, as contact in consciousness between divided beings and separate objects. And with us, this contact in divided consciousness is primarily represented by the principle of sense. On this basis of sense, in this contact of union, subject to division, the action of the thought mind founds itself and prepares for the return to a higher principle of union in which division is made subject to unity and subordinate. Substance then, as we know it, material substance, is a form in which mind acting through sense contacts the conscious being, of which it is itself a movement of knowledge. Pretty complex, but let's have a look at what he's saying. Okay, so we'll have to each sentence, but it will require a little bit of going into the background. So we'll do that. Okay. So the first thing he's saying is, before that, let us just remember a few basic principles. Okay. One is that the highest supreme reality, the ultimate reality is one. But it wants to manifest itself. And when it wants to manifest itself, there are two things that happen. One is it divides itself seemingly into the many, multiplicity. Okay. It's like the one white light coming through the prism becomes 7 lights. Now it is not 7 lights anymore, but infinite lights. Okay. So this is the first thing that you have to remember. Second thing is that it also becomes dense and loses its purity. So consciousness becomes unconsciousness, power becomes incapacity and almost the opposite of power, weakness. Ananda becomes also pain, pleasure and suffering here. And Sat, the substance, which is the purest substance, which is saying, which is one infinite, you can describe it as transparent and featureless. Absolutely no features at all. No color, no form, no shape. The only thing you can say about it very definitely is absolutely real. But it cannot be described in any way. There is the Sat substance. This also comes down and becomes here dense matter. But the dense matter is not anymore one, but it is divided into infinite atoms. But this also is a seeming. Okay, so these two things we remember and then we'll proceed. Okay. But now, why this phenomenal and pragmatic division of an indivisible existence? So the first thing he's saying is that the indivisible existence is the Satchidananda. Okay, he's talking of existence. You take it also as substance, it's pure substance, which is subtle and without any characteristics. Now he is asking phenomenal and pragmatic. Actually, it's only phenomenal. It seems to be a phenomenon. A phenomenon, you can define it as something that is an event in the physical world. It starts, it comes into existence, goes away. Okay, this is phenomenal. Everything in the physical world is of that nature, and it is pragmatic. It is practical. There is a difference between practical and essential. So the essential is always one, but that essentiality is retained in the pragmatic condition. So if your consciousness allows you, you can see either the practical aspect, or if you are developed in consciousness, you will be able to see even the essential consciousness even at this level. Okay? So now we proceed. Why this phenomenal and pragmatic division of an indivisible existence? It is because mind has to carry the principle of multiplicity to its extreme potential, which can only be done by separativeness and division. Now, in this sentence, note it is mind that is creating the division. It is mind. The principle of mind is the one that makes the multiplicity. In the supermind, the possibility of division is there, but the division doesn't start there at that level. It has got the capacity to do that. At the overmind level, the multiplicity, the principle of multiplicity becomes absolutely operative, if you want, or effective. You can put it that way. Then, because mind has to create the principle of multiplicity, it's extreme potential. Now that's another thing. Mind is creating multiplicity, but being itself infinite, it will go on infinitely making multiplicity. So it has to go to the extreme limit of infinite multiplicity. It can't stop midway because its nature is infinity. Okay? So that's why he's saying it is because mind has to carry the principle of multiplicity to its extreme potential, which can only be done by separativeness and division. To do that, it must, precipitating itself into life to create forms for the multiple, give to the universal principle of being the appearance of a gross and material substance instead of a pure and subtle substance. Now the pure and subtle substance is Sat, that which is absolutely one and featureless. Okay? Then the gross material is matter, if you want, that one substance, pure substance is becoming, subtle substance is becoming gross matter. And in gross matter, the multiplicity expresses itself. Okay? So, to do that, it was precipitating into life. It comes down from mind, the next level of the densification, or if you want, or the falsification, or the appearance is life. So it comes into life, okay, and creates a division. You can see that all life forms are all separate in the universe. Life also, remember, it is not living creatures. The principle of life is energy, and their energy is one. But the moment it expresses itself in life, you have animate creatures. So multiplicity has already started there. So many living things are all multiple. Trees, plants and animals. Okay? So multiplicity has started there already. When it comes down to matter, it becomes even more infinite. The number, this is an interesting thing, the number of atoms in the world is more than the number of life forms. Then the mental, okay, men, the number of men is less than the number of animals. This is a conclusion that I am drawing from what he says. Because he says in the supermind also, the number of supermen will be less than the human beings. So it's a pyramidal structure. It goes right to the top. But everybody will be helped to go to the next level more easily. Okay? In fact, when Superman comes into the picture, everybody is not going to become a Superman. So this is sort of pyramidal structure. Okay? Maximum multiplicity at the lower level, less multiplicity here, less multiplicity there. Finally, less multiplicity means you go to oneness. So you can see the oneness and the multiplicity. It's a pyramidal structure. Okay? These are not expressly stated by Sri Aurobindo, but they are the obvious conclusions that you come to. So, to do that, it must precipitating itself into life to create forms for the multiple. Give to the universal principle of being. Okay. Now, you have to substitute the word being with substance. Okay. But substance has got so many degrees. Matter also is substance, life also is substance, mind also is substance, spiritual substance also is there, and the subtlest of substance, which is ether, that also is substance. But to understand, we'll have to, because being is that which is static, and becoming is that which is moving and dynamic in the physical world. So you have to understand being by, otherwise being is a very abstract word. So you have to replace it by that. And next what he's saying will become clear. So what he's saying, we'll read that. To do that, precipitating itself into life, mind is precipitating itself into life, entering into life, to create forms for the multiple. Give to the universal principle of being the appearance of a gross and material substance instead of a pure and subtle substance. Pure and subtle substance, Sat. Material substance, matter. Okay? So, because if it is pure and subtle, multiplicity can't take place there in a subtle thing. It will remain subtle. Okay? The moment it is divided, it becomes gross. Okay? So, the appearance of a gross and middle substance instead of a pure and subtle substance. It must, that is to say, give it the appearance of substance which offers itself to the contact of mind as stable thing or object in an abiding multiplicity of objects, and not of substance which offers itself to the contact of pure consciousness as something of its own eternal pure existence and reality. Okay. I'll finish the sentence, then we'll come back to it. Or to subtle sense as a principle of plastic form, freely expressive of the conscious being. Now, he's saying at the highest level, mind uses its substance to make forms. Just see again, let's go back to the beginning. To do that, it must, precipitating itself into life, to create forms for the multiple, give to the universal principle of being the appearance of a gross and material substance. This is clear. The subtle substance has to be made gross, okay, instead of a pure and subtle substance. It must, that is to say, give it the appearance of substance which offers itself to the contact of mind. Now, at this level, substance has become separate from mind. Okay? This separation starts at the overmind level. Above the overmind level, substance and mind and force are all same. So, when the division starts, we put it that way, then we'll read what he's saying. It is Chit which says to force, we are all one, where our substance also is one, but we want to create the many. So therefore, you separate yourself from me, use my substance and create forms for me. Okay? So this is what happens. Okay? So the division starts. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda is one, but at this level of the supermind, the potentiality of multiplicity is there. At the overmind level, Chit, that is consciousness, is telling, he's using the word mind, okay, because mind, consciousness becomes mind. So, and Chit, Shakti becomes a life. So, consciousness is telling force or Shakti, create forms for me, using my own substance. You are part of me. So, the separation comes. Now, if we read that one, we'll see what he is saying, okay. Later on also, it will become clear. It must therefore give what? This subtle substance. It must give it the appearance of substance which offers itself to the contact of mind as a stable thing. Not as an unstable thing which is the subtle. The subtle is unstable. Okay? But here it has to be stable with forms. In the subtle, there cannot be forms. If there are forms, then already there will be a certain density. Okay? Note also interestingly how the substance at the lowest level is solid and dense. When you come to the life level, forms are there. There are creatures, elves and gnomes and all, there are forms. But they are more subtle. They can change their form also, not as rigid as this. So, at the mind level, the substance of mind is even more subtle. Thoughts are forms. Don't think that thoughts are not forms. But they are more subtle. Okay? In fact, that's what Mother told when Jugalda was playing Perseus the Deliverer. She said his thinking is very clear because the forms that are coming out are well defined and well shaped. Okay? In other words, if your thinking is hazy, the forms of your thoughts will look cloudy. Okay? So you can see also. And also you have to recognize what that cloudy thought is. You have to recognize if you have the power. Okay? So forms are there. But at the highest level, no forms. It becomes formless. Okay? So that's what he's saying. At the highest level, mind and formlessness and substance is all one. But to make the multiplicity, they must all become separate. The consciousness must become the creator and it must tell the power of creation, Shakti, to create forms from its own substance. Okay? So, it must, that is to say, give it the appearance of substance which offers itself to the contact of mind. Now he is talking at our level. Okay? Not actually our level because mind is M cap, but the division starts at that level itself. But in here, our mind has become separate from the substance, the forms. There is a separation. So the connection has to be made again. Their connection is not necessary because they are all identification is there. But here, because it is separated, principle of separation we spoke of in the beginning, so it becomes separate. So how to contact? Nature creates sense. So sense is the way to allow mind to contact its forms in the physical world. Clear? So, a stable thing or object in an abiding multiplicity of objects. Note the word abiding. Okay? At the higher levels where it is subtle, it is not abiding. Forms, life forms are subtle and they disappear. Even your dreams, that's why you can't remember, because they come and they disappear. You disappear because they don't last, they disappear. Thoughts also are likely to come into existence but disappear easily. Subtle things will disappear very easily, they won't remain forms. So, but he's saying abiding multiplicity. So for abiding means lasting, that which has to last. So therefore it has to be subtle. It has to be gross. Okay. Abiding multiplicity of objects and not of substance which offers itself to the contact of pure consciousness as something of its own eternal pure existence and reality. The second part of the sentence you can understand. It should not be like pure consciousness, okay? Its relation with pure consciousness and substance, it should not be like that. And not, I read that again, a stable thing, and not of substance which offers itself to the contact of pure consciousness as something of its own eternal pure existence. At the highest level, pure consciousness and pure substance are one. So there is no need of sense. That's why you have the principle of identification at the highest level. Everything becomes one. As you keep going higher and higher, sense first becomes subtle, then sense disappears. No senses. Different instruments of knowledge come into the picture. First of all, at our level, gross senses. Ears, eyes, nose, touch. And that allows us only a certain range of reality, not the whole thing. When you go to the next level, when you are dreaming, you are seeing, you are using your sight, you are using your ears, but they are not eyes and ears, so you are using subtle senses. Then you go even higher up, senses are not needed, you get better instruments. What are those instruments? Shruti and darshan. Revelation and inspiration. They are better instruments than senses. You go even higher up, everything becomes one. Therefore, identification. That's the ultimate instrument of knowledge.
What is the one between sense and Shruti Drishti?
When you go to the higher mind level, okay, you don't need senses anymore. You need sight. You see the reality and that's enough for you. Okay. You go even higher up, these are the principles of the supermind. Na? Revelation, inspiration, intuition and discrimination. They are the four powers. They are far superior instruments than senses. Gross senses are very limited.
So having less senses, is it an evolved process, or having more sensory organs is an evolved
If
process?
you start from the bottom,
Yes.
there are less senses.
For example, snake.
Exactly.
Tastes and hears from one organ.
Exactly.
We have a separate organ.
Exactly. So go down even more. Go to the worm.
Yes.
It's got only tactile sense.
Exactly.
So as you come up, there are creatures with one sense, two senses, three senses.
Yes.
The potentiality of senses is maximum in man, 5 senses.
But then you are saying if you go up again, the senses will become one.
Yes.
So why that is evolving and suddenly it is shrinking?
That happens in everything. Na?
Okay.
If you see carefully, the one
Yes.
is becoming the many.
And then
But
again,
again, when you are going up again, it's all becoming one again. Okay, na?
Okay.
So it's interesting. If you see evolution and involution, this principle, it's a little bit of a problem even to me. I'll tell you why. The highest level is one. It starts manifesting whatever is inside it. Okay? Although I don't go to supermind, overmind and all those things. Then it produces mind, life and matter. Now what is happening? Again it becomes involved, involution. So there is a separation, sort of separation, and again an involution. So,
You could say that what is the vision at this level
Yes.
it becomes revelation at that level. So the quality of the thing has changed.
yes.
It's the same thing, but here it is just gross vision. There it is called revelation and it is the same faculty but at a higher level of quality.
Yes.
Same would be inspiration. Inspiration is Shruti, that is hearing. So it is hearing, but hearing of a higher consciousness.
Yes.
So the quality
See,
has changed.
What Anmol said just now, I will put it in another way. Okay, it's a very interesting thing actually when you think about it. Everything that you can think of, the laws are the same everywhere,
Yes.
but they become relevant to the level of consciousness at which you are.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll explain to you in another way. Okay, we'll take only one principle to understand this. Okay, let's take the principle of attraction and repulsion, because the whole world is created by 5 vibrations only. Only 5 vibrations. Everything you see in the physical world is a combination of these 5 vibrations. So what are these 5 vibrations? One is a vibration that goes up. One is a vibration that comes down. Another is contraction. Another is expansion. Okay. Then the other one, the last one is nothing but simply movement. Gamanam. So these 5 things are creating the world. So now let us see how they change character from the lowest to the highest. Okay. Let's take contraction and repulsion. I am using the words contraction and repulsion. I'll use different words for the same thing higher up. Give me an example. Magnets. At the material level, there is an attraction and a repulsion. Okay. Come to the life level, at the vital level, is there not attraction and repulsion? Love and hate. See, it has become subtler. Okay. Come to the mind level, the same principle still applies. You are attracted to certain ideas, certain
Affinity.
affinity to some ideas, and others are repelling to you. You don't. Okay. Now come to the spiritual level. What is meant by attraction and expansion? Now I use the word expansion and not repulsion. The movement is the same. So when you are concentration, when you want to do yoga, you have to learn to concentrate. Get rid of all other things and just simply concentrate. This is the attraction principle. It has become now concentration. Now come to the expansion part. The cosmic consciousness. You have expanded yourself to eternity. No? So the same principle has operated here. This is applicable to everything that he mentioned just now. He mentioned only darshan, sight. It applies to everything in the physical world. It applies to Sat, it applies to Chit, it applies to Shakti, it applies also to the mind, everything. This is the principle. The same laws operate, but they become subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler.
So that's how it started from Sat, pure consciousness, and again going back to the individual consciousness.
It's fascinating when you... And in fact, all these things can get explained when you consider the problem of freedom and fate. Okay? This principle, if you apply, it starts becoming clear. Okay? How freedom and fate are connected. They are really the same thing. Okay? Then there are all the other things also. Liberation, what is meant by liberation. Everything falls into place. Okay? So, it's interesting. So, in fact, to understand Sri Aurobindo, we have to go back to many other things to understand. If you want to understand this, you have to go there and see, then you see the connections, then it becomes possible to. It's a lifetime journey. Okay, let's get back to our text. So, what Sri Aurobindo is saying here, that at the highest level, mind and substance are the same. That relation should not be there in matter. Okay? Matter should become something which is separate from mind, and then sense is needed to connect the two. Okay? So, and nature also gives the connection in a graded way. Okay. And there is another way of also looking at it. At every level of consciousness, okay, at every level of existence, there are two things that are there. One is the created universe. You can call it existence. But somebody has to experience this existence, this world that has been created. So there is a consciousness which is experiencing this. So at the highest level, both are the same. The experiencer and the experiencer become one. As you come down to the lowest level, they become separate. So now you need something to connect the two. So nature gives you instruments to connect the consciousness with the created existence. Okay? And this goes on, the instruments go on becoming subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler. But the experiencer remains the same. At the lowest level, even a worm is an experiencer. It is experiencing the world. When you come to animal, it is experiencing with more senses. You come to man, he has 5 full senses. But he has the capacity to go higher up and use subtler senses. Okay? Then you keep going up higher, the senses become more and more subtle, more and more subtle. Finally, the last sense is no sense at all, identification. Okay? Because to each level, you have to use the instrument which is relevant to it. Just like if you want to examine something at the molecular level, you can't use your instruments of sight, eyesight. You have to use a microscope. It's an instrument which allows you to see at that level. If you want to see astronomical things, you have to use a microscope. No, you can't. You have to use a telescope. So exactly the same principle applies here also. To each level, relevant instruments are there to experience that. That is created, that is available. You have to develop those senses. Okay? What we have discussed just now is implied in all this, what he is saying. Okay? So, now we have only come to one, we have still got the whole para to go. Okay? So this is clear. What he is saying is, at this level, substance must create forms and there must be sense which connects. There must be sense to connect it. But at the highest level, it should not be like that. Because there, the forms are not made and they are one. So that relation between mind and substance should not be here as it is there. That's what he's saying.
So at that level, there is no question of instrumentation.
That's right.
Yeah.
No instrumentation at all. Whereas if you want to, multiplicity, because he explained to us why multiplicity is necessary. And because you want to experience in 100,000 different ways. The divine wants to see himself not as one, that is one way of looking at things, but he wants to see himself from different angles and different. So, he is looking at the physical world that he has created through your eyes, through her eyes, through my eyes, through your 7.5 billion ways of looking at things and enjoying.
The divine has known that we are the more evolved species amongst the others. Why the other species are still existing when we are the evolved species, the human?
Yeah, but from where have you evolved?
Pyramid.
From them.
So
they will continue to exist.
Oh yes.
Because they are a life cycle.
Exactly. So they will continue to exist, but they will also continue to evolve.
Yes,
They will also continue to evolve.
Okay? The consciousness in the form, in the worm, will become an insect. The consciousness in the insect will become a cat. The consciousness in the cat will become a human being.
Oh, it is not at physical level, it is at
it's not the physical. It's the consciousness which is evolving. This is the difference between Darwin theory and Srivastava's theory of evolution.
Yes.
It's the consciousness which is evolving. And why does the consciousness evolve? Because it is divine essentially. So it doesn't want to remain trapped.
Yes.
Why should the divine essence be limited? It wants to break out. But it can't break out unless there is something into which it can break out. So life comes in from matter. So now it gets a chance to become life. So consciousness goes from matter consciousness to life consciousness. Then from there to mind consciousness. And he is doing this in 7.5 billion ways. And enjoying also. Okay. So this is something that when we talk of Srivastava's divinization of matter, we think that everything will become divine. No, everything will remain as a record of what has been done. But if you read carefully Srivastava, sometimes he will say the inconscient will disappear, it will become conscient. Okay? Then you have to think a little what he means. So, at our level, there is a range of consciousness which we cannot go above a certain level and we cannot go below a certain level. So there is a range. But when the Superman comes, I think the range for him will be increased, downwards as well as upwards. In fact, above Superman, nobody is gone. Sri Aurobindo says that this is like the Parabrahman. You are standing on the porch. But if you want to go in, you cannot come back to give a report. So, and below also you can't go below a certain level. Okay? Mother went into the inconscient. She had the experience of the inconscient once. But she got thrown out of there like a mighty spring. And she went out and she experienced the consciousness there vibrating with the seeds of a new creation. So I think the inconscient will remain always, because the divine is not playing a temporary game. He is playing a game which is eternal. So the inconscient will remain. But the range will increase, I think. This is how I see it.
There is a pyramid also which is drawn by Sri Aurobindo.
Okay, so now, this is clear. He is saying substance, pure substance must become gross substance. And that gross substance must present itself to the mind consciousness here. So sense comes into the picture. The way the mind can experience substance here is sense. He is defining it that way. Okay, so the contact of mind with its objects creates what we call sense. But here it has to be an obscure, externalized sense which must be assured of the reality of what it contacts. The sense must be, it has to be permanent, a permanent form, and the sense must know that yes, this is a reality. At its level, it has to be a reality. At that level, again, the sense should be relevant to that level where it will feel its reality. Like that it goes on until finally it becomes one. No sense at all. Everything becomes one. So, external. But here it has to be an obscure, externalized sense. Externalized. It's not anymore internal, okay? It's not psychological anymore. It becomes gross physical sense, which must be assured of the reality of what it contacts. The descent of pure substance into material substance follows then, inevitably, on the descent of Satchidananda through supermind into mind and life. There you are. So the substance, Satchidananda, is above the supermind. When it comes through the supermind and comes down into mind and life and matter, it divides. Substance becomes matter. Okay? So, and again, look at the way he is putting it. The descent of pure substance into material substance follows then, inevitably, on the descent of Satchidananda, because Satchidananda itself is matter. Satchidananda itself is consciousness. It is also force. And it is also Ananda. Through supermind into mind and life. It has to come through supermind because supermind is the one that is we compared it to a prism. It is that which allows the multiplicity. It has to come through the supermind. In fact, he says if supermind is not there, there will be no world. There will be only oneness. It is supermind that creates the world. That's why it has got the power of Maya. Maya is the power to create forms. Okay? Then, it is a necessary result of the will to make multiplicity of being and an awareness of things from separate centers of consciousness. All human beings are separate centers of consciousness, but why only human beings? Even the animals, they are also centers of consciousness, with a less consciousness. Okay? So, the first method of this lower experiment of existence. The lower experiment of existence, the physical world. There is a higher, what is the word he's using? Lower experience of existence. So, there can be a higher experience of existence. Subtle senses, then again, different instruments of knowledge. Okay? Drishti, Shruti, and finally, identification. So, if we go back to the spiritual basis of things, substance in its utter purity, this is at the highest level, resolves itself into pure conscious being, self-existent, inherently self-aware by identity, but not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. Now he is explaining to you that consciousness, substance, force and ananda are all the same. But he is concentrating only on consciousness and existence. Because others are there, but he is not, because forms, and he is talking about matter. So he is concentrating only on consciousness and, in fact, Sat and Chit. He is concentrating only on that. Now look at the sentence. If we go back to the pure spiritual basis of things, pure spiritual basis at the highest level, okay? Substance in its utter purity, Sat or ether if you want. What happens? In utter purity, resolves itself into pure conscious being. That substance itself becomes conscious of itself. So, to make this quite clear too, I put it to the students in another way. I say, think of a granite block. It is substance. Okay, this granite block is conscious. Okay, and it has also got the power to mold itself into any shape it wants. It can become a Shiva statue, it can become a Vishnu statue, it can become a vase, it can become an animal form, it can do anything it wants. It's the power it has got. It has got consciousness, and when it molds itself, it is enjoying what it is doing. This is such a... Now, that granite block, now transfer it to the subtlest substance. Then the picture becomes clear.
That is Swayambhu we call, no?
Huh?
Naturally, it takes its form, we call it as Swayambhu.
Exactly. That's why it is Swayambhu. Because it's got the power and the consciousness and everything it has got. At our level, if you want to create, everything is separate. Okay? Like I usually put it like our Tata. Okay? Ratan Tata wants to make the nano. So what does he need? He needs material. He needs substance. Then he needs knowledge. He needs the technical know-how, Chit. And then he has to also get the power to do that. Okay? Material he has got and technical knowledge he has got. But he has to get the power. He has to get labor and money. That's it. And when he is successful in his creation, he is happy. So the same thing is operating here. The same thing, but it has become separate. No? It's interesting. But there it is one. Here it becomes 4 different things. So, we come back to the text. It is a necessary result of the will to make multiplicity of being and an awareness of things from separate centers of consciousness the first method of this lower experience of existence. If we go back to the spiritual basis of things, substance in its utter purity resolves itself into pure conscious being. It becomes pure conscious being. Theoretically, substance is not necessarily consciousness. Sat is separate. But it becomes pure conscious being. Actually, it is always the same. But for our understanding, he is thinking of slightly different things. So first he is taking it utter purity. Substance in its utter purity, implication is that it is not yet conscious. But the moment consciousness joins to it, it becomes conscious substance. Okay? Into pure conscious being, self-existent. It exists by itself. It doesn't depend on anything else. Okay? What you call Swayambhu. It exists by itself. Inherently self-aware by identity. There you are. Okay? So, substance is consciousness because they are identical. There is no difference. But not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. There you are. So, at that level, substance and consciousness have become one, but they have not yet separated. For creation, it has to separate. Okay? So, at the highest level, consciousness and substance are one, not yet separate. Then, inherently self-aware by identity, but not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. Okay? Supermind preserves this self-awareness by identity as its substance of self-knowledge and its light of self-creation. In the supermind, this identification is there. Okay? But for that creation, presents being to itself as a subject-object, one and multiple of its own active consciousness. Now, he is giving the technology of how this separation occurs. Okay, so consciousness is dividing itself into subject-object. It is telling part of my consciousness, you become separate from me, okay, and start creating forms. So that separation he is talking about. See, supermind preserves the self-awareness by identity. In fact, the oneness, you can put the word oneness. Oneness is there as its substance of self-knowledge and its light of self-creation. All is one. But for that creation, presents being to itself. It separates itself from substance and becomes the relation of subject and object comes into the picture. Consciousness, you can almost say by spiritual surgery, it separates substance from itself and becomes different. So they use the word moral surgery in another place. That's why I'm using the word spiritual surgery. It cuts, consciousness cuts out its own substance and makes it separate. Okay? So why separate? Because subject-object has to come into the picture. At our level, subject-object is absolutely, everything is subject-object. But as you keep going up, oneness it becomes, subject-object become one. And that's the identity. The divine himself is the consciousness. Now interesting.
How we can relate experience, consciousness to this subject and object?
At the lower level, the division has occurred, na? What is your question, Gita? Again say.
How we can relate this subject object to consciousness and experience?
Okay. See, that's exactly what he's describing. There is a state where consciousness and substance are one.
Become one, yes.
But to create multiplicity, it can't remain one. If you want to create multiplicity, how can it remain one? So the division has to start. So consciousness separates itself from its own substance. At that level. Okay? There is the oneness. In the supermind, both are there. That's why in the supermind, the oneness as well as the many, potential many is there. In fact, he says the triple status of the supermind. Okay? Both are there. But above that, the oneness of the Satchidananda, there is no potentiality of the universe. It is purely one. There is no potentiality of the many. But as soon as it comes into the supermind, the potentiality of oneness is there. He makes that very clear in the chapter on the supermind. Okay? So now the potentiality, the oneness becomes two-ness if you want. Okay? The consciousness separates itself from its own. Now look at what he's saying. Okay? If we go back to the spiritual base of things, substance in its utter purity resolves itself into pure conscious being. Self-existent, inherently self-aware by identity. It is still one. But not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. It is still subject-object are one. Consciousness and substance are one. Okay? Supermind preserves this self-awareness by identity as its substance of self-knowledge and its light of self-creation. It is still one. But for that creation, presents being to itself as the subject-object, one and multiple of its own active consciousness. Okay? Its own active consciousness, it presents itself, it separates itself from substance. Go to the next sentence. Being as object is held there in a supreme knowledge which can, by comprehension, see it both as an object of cognition within itself and subjectively as itself, but can also and simultaneously by apprehension project it as an object or objects of cognition within the circumference of its own consciousness. We'll stop here. So, consciousness and substance have become separate and there is creation. But where is the creation? Within itself. And yet there is separation. So there is oneness and separation. So that's what he uses the words comprehension and apprehension. Comprehension means Forms have been created, but they are all part of me only. Okay? They are all part of me. That is, in fact, when you experience a cosmic consciousness, these two things get reflected in the cosmic consciousness. Okay? Srimla is saying the whole universe is within me. So that is at the supramental level, this is what it corresponds to. Everything that is created is within the consciousness of the divine. Okay? It is comprehensive. But it doesn't stop at that. He says that whatever I have created also is part of me, so I'll enter into each thing that I have made. That's the other consciousness that is there, cosmic consciousness. You feel yourself in two ways. One, everything is included in me. That's a comprehensive consciousness. The other is, I will project myself into everything that I have made. Okay? I enter into everything. There's a divine presence in everything. That's what he calls apprehending consciousness. In other words, if you take Sri Aurobindo sonnets, okay, in one he says, the whole universe is, the largest stars of the universe are burning in me. Okay. On the other hand, he says in another sonnet, to whichever face I turn, to whichever human being, to whichever
whatsoever face I turn,
being I turn, I see myself with another face. That's the apprehending apprehending consciousness. It is me only with another face. So this is happening at the supramental level. The seed of this is happening there. Apprehensive and comprehension.
So each body is a divine body.
Huh?
Each body is a divine body.
So this is what is meaning now. So that separation occurs, but the separation, there is unity as well as multiplicity. That is there at that highest level. So even in the physical world, if you see, unity is there, but in the background. This is very obvious. We are all human beings. Okay? They are all separate. So there is multiplicity, but there is something called humanity, which is the unifying element. You go to any species, that's also the same principle of unity and multiplicity is there. Okay? Take any species. Take lions or cats or dogs or horses. Horses are many, multiplicity. But there is something called horseness. That's the unity. So it is subtle. But when you go to the higher levels, unity becomes more obvious than the multiplicity. At our level, multiplicity is rampant and unity is there. We can conceive of unity. But as you keep going up, unity becomes more prominent and multiplicity starts decreasing and losing its reality.
So that is the reason that these days the family are becoming more nuclear, in terms of, before it used to be more of a joint family, and nowadays it is, I'm just thinking aloud.
Maybe, I don't know.
Could be that the reason.
So anyway, it is a difficult paragraph,
yes.
but we have more or less grasped what he's trying to say.
Maybe we can just read through till the end of the paragraph.
Okay, let's do that.
See if
Okay,
any
yeah.
explanation can come.
Now, he's saying, if we go back to the spirit, I'll read from there. If we go back to the spiritual basis of things, substance in its utter purity resolves itself into pure conscious being. It becomes conscious, self-existent, inherently self-aware by identity. Identity of what? Consciousness and substance. But not yet turning its consciousness upon itself as object. It is still one. Supermind preserves this self-awareness by identity as its substance of self-knowledge and its light of self-creation. Oneness is there. But for that creation, presents being to itself, presents the consciousness, the substance to itself as the subject-object, one and multiple in its own active consciousness. The creation is within itself, not outside itself. It is within itself. Being as object is held there in a supreme knowledge which can, by comprehension, see it both as an object of cognition within itself and subjectively as itself, but can also and simultaneously, by apprehension, project it as an object or objects of cognition within the circumference of its own consciousness, not other than itself, part of its being, but a part or parts put away from itself, That is to say, from the center of vision in which being concentrates itself as the knower, witness and Purusha. This big sentence is being, both the things are there. I can see myself in everybody else, but I can also see them if I want as separate from myself. That's what he's saying. Okay?
We should consider ourselves as subject or object.
You are at this level, you are the subject and the world is the object.
No, in reference to the ultimate consciousness.
When you are at the ultimate consciousness, subject-object become one.
But
No.
at this level, at our present level, we are what?
You are the subject and the world is the object.
What is
In a-
subject?
in a-
No,
if-
but me versus the supreme, the
That which is outside you. But at the outside concept disappears at the highest level. See, even that also you can understand. Okay, if you are the subject, okay, in you also the subject object is there. Your thoughts.
Yes.
Is it part of you?
No, it's not a part of me.
Why? It is you are creating.
I mean, I think
So it is part of you, yet it is you can watch it. So it's very similar to that thing what is happening there. And that's the way to liberation actually. You start looking at your own thoughts as not yourself. You start separating yourself from your thoughts.
Yes.
Okay? Then there is liberation. The consciousness comes out. But so long as the consciousness is identified with body, mind, life, there is identity. Okay?
Identity, yes.
And that is ignorance at this level. But at the higher level, it becomes identity by knowledge. Okay? So, object subject is very. Here, it is part, your thinking and your vital emotions are in you, and you think it is yourself. But you have to separate yourself from there to get the real unity. You have to start watching yourself. That's the experience of the self. You see your thoughts as outside yourself. Okay? So, then we have seen that from this apprehending consciousness arises the movement of mind. Okay? Apprehending consciousness, each thing separately, I am there in each thing. So that's the movement of mind. The movement by which the individual knower regards a form of his own universal being as if other than he. So, at that level, you have created out of your own substance, you have created something, and you are seeing it as something separate from me. Okay? Maybe something also similar to when a parent is producing a child. It is he himself, but a part of him is there, and yet is himself in a certain sense, because his substance is there, he has passed by heredity also, some of his things he has passed on there, something like that. Okay? So, we have seen that from this apprehending consciousness arises the movement of mind, the movement by which the individual knower regards the form of his own universal being as if other than he. But in the divine mind, there is immediately or rather simultaneously another movement or reverse side of the same movement, an act of union in being which heals this phenomenal division and prevents it from becoming, even for a moment, solely real to the knower. Both the things are there. It is external to me, it is internal to me also. So that prevents the total real separation. That's what he's saying. Real separation is not there. It is apparent separation. He used the word practical and phenomenal right in the beginning. So it seems to be divided, and that seeming is because both are there at the same time. Okay? This act of conscious union is that which is represented otherwise in dividing mind obtusely, in a very obtuse and the acute. Acute angle is that which is less than 90 degrees. Obtuse is more than 90 degrees. So when you want to create multiplicity, it has to be obtuse. It has to go outwards. Okay? So, ignorantly, quite externally as contact in consciousness between divided beings and separate objects. And with us, this contact in divided consciousness is primarily represented by the principle of sense. So sense has to come in when the multiplicity is almost total at this level. Not real, but seemingly real. On this basis of sense, on this contact of union, subject to division, there you are, okay? It is union subject to division. The action of the thought mind founds itself and prepares for the return to a higher principle of union in which division is made subject to unity and subordinate. Substance, then, as we know it, material substance, is the form in which mind acting through sense contacts the conscious being, of which is itself a movement of knowledge. So, something we have understood. Okay.
The language in this para is very complex.
Yes.
Okay, you can stop.
We stop here today.